part of it is for us to be able to have a policy for non-violent offenders. For me, for example, I saw some people, their charge sheet, you see them say one drink, this, that, and the person is in Kirikiri prison. He's in Kuje because you pick him for one drink. Somebody like that, what is he doing with hardened and convicted criminals in Kuje? So for non-violent offenders, I see no reason why they should be in custodial centers. I think there should be non-custodial measures that we could. If we do that, there's a huge possibility that we will be able to reduce the number of inmates to like 15,000. And in line with global standard now, most correctional centers, I think for a country like Nigeria, because the jurisdiction of Federal High Court is nationwide, there's only one, so even if you're arrested or in Kano, you can be prosecuted in Sokoto or in Edo or anywhere because there is jurisdiction for federal offenses. So I think, my own opinion, that we don't need more than maximum 10 custodial centers of 3,000 capacity. There is one that is about 90% complete. Yes. That's the one in Kano. It's almost done. It's a 3,000 capacity. There is one we are doing now in Karachi. Here it's a 3,000 capacity. So for me, if we have 3,000 capacity, about 10, it means we have capacity for 30,000. So if what we have at the moment is roughly, say, 20,000 plus or minus, it means that we have made provision for increment of even at 50%. What that helps me to do is that at the moment I have 246 correctional centers. It's practically impossible to secure 246 correctional centers. What is the number of armed guard that we have for correctional centers? That we have to protect 246 centers. And it will interest you that some of these centers, 400 people, 200, some, even less than that. So we, by being able to have these centers, means that we can now demarcate those centers to maximum and medium in those areas based on the gravity of the offenses and be able to create courts and facilities within that sector. So correctional centers that exist now that have not been caught up by urbanization, my own opinion is for the federal possibly to look at the possibility of transferring those structures to the states. So these states can renovate, the states can have their own there. Because if you tell them to go and build, a lot of states, we know, they might not. But there are some of these centers that we don't really need. Two, the chairman spoke about the correctional center in Sapel in Benin. One that interests me the most is even the one here, by our side, here in Kuje. The correctional center in Kuje shares a fence with a school. With a school. Yes, Abi? Yes. And their houses around. And you have people in those places and sharing fence with a school. So how on earth can we have that type of center in a 21st century environment? So I believe that those ones that have been eaten up by urbanization, yes, there can be other uses by the correctional service for those places. But for those other ones that are still in good locations in terms of international best practice, we can transfer those ones to states. So that states will now renovate, and also states will now take care of their offenders. Because let me say this clearly, in a year, how much do we feed our inmates with? How much of that is actually being expended on federal offenders? It will interest you, 70% of it is being spent on state offenders. So states, for me, so there's a lot of debate that we need to have on this. We need to be able to holistically sit down and be very practical. It's not an era of English-speaking venture. It's just about practicability, sitting down with you, critical stakeholders, to be able to rework it so that we are not asking the states to start afresh from sub-zero. We are saying possibly these 240-something, maybe it's about 50 that urbanization have eaten up. Okay, we take those ones off. The other ones, how do we get it to the states to renovate? And we have to come up with initiatives. So I think it's a wonderful idea that we need to play with. And also, issue of expatriates being paid in dollars. I said it earlier. What we have discovered is that a lot of expatriates, what they earn in Nigeria is upkeep allowance. A lot of them, they are so smart that so many of them, they get paid they pay them in their home nation because they want to avoid tax. They want to, because of tax issues and so many. So what you will see them earning here is so small, but the real money that they are earning is not paid for here. They pay in their cost. So that's why I said we're bringing up what we call the EEL, the Expatriate Employee Levy. So if you like, if you say now one naira that they pay you, this is our levy. So if you cannot pay, go.
The levy should be in foreign currency.
No, that's what I said. I said for all categories of non-executive is $5,000. But for executives, that's the executive directors and the managing directors, is about $10,000 per annum. So if you like, go and be earning your money abroad, but you will, so far you are using our infrastructure, you must be able to pay. You can't use our infrastructure, use our health services, and use all our assets. And at the end of the day, you tell me they are paying you. There are some of them, they will even tell you their payment is just $50,000 in a month, and it's an expatriate. How is it surviving? So they're just playing around it. So for us to be able to thwart that, to defend the interests of Nigeria, and also defend the jobs, for jobs to be available to Nigeria, you must pay. And it is the company that pays. So it is the company that is bringing you that will pay. So if you know as a company you cannot afford it, get a Nigerian that can do the job. So you now ask yourself, which one is cheaper for you? Do you want to be paying 5,000 or 10,000 every year, or you want to send a Nigerian for training and he comes back and you employ? So plus or minus, because we must have sanctions. We must be able to put these things in place so that if we are able to do it, jobs can be retained for our people. So that is a priority on that. Then, issue of envelope. Well, Mr. Chairman, I was a member of the National Assembly, and I know that appropriation is the responsibility of the National Assembly. You have the yam, you have the knife. You are the voice of the people, you are the representatives of the people, and you know that ability of Nigerians being able to sleep with their two eyes closed is the main responsibility of government. And we must be able to also know that, yes, we understand the role of other security agencies, but the issue of internal security, the issue of protection of critical infrastructure, the issue of even our fire service, the issue of our correctional center, or even immigration, because if you can't protect your border, if you cannot secure your border, you cannot secure your nation. So if we understand that the whole world has gone beyond detective, as I said, corrective security measures. The world now is on preventive. People want to spend money to avert crisis. People don't want to spend money to solve crisis. You don't want terrorists to hit or come into Nigeria. They've done the damage. You are now looking for money to get them. People that lives that have been lost have been lost. So that's where immigration and border control comes in. Because if they really sample those, we will know that, okay, the people we are managing are people within. And the security agencies can do that. But in a scenario whereby, as I said, about 1,800 entry points, 700 manned, 1,100 unmanned, and we think that we are ready. So there's a lot we need to do. We need your support to be able to achieve it. And we know that with the express support of this hallowed institution, we will be able to have the tools that is needed for us to give our people the kind of service that they need to be able to sleep with their two eyes closed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been a privilege defending this budget in your presence. God bless you, sir. ICT. You spoke about automation. Thank you so much. I'm an IT person myself. I was a line manager. I was IT line security manager at level of HSBC. I'm a certified ethical hacker. About over 20-something years experience in the IT world. So I understand your language when you speak about your language. And at the center of all we do is security. I have to say this because I'm trained as an ethical hacker of about 20 years experience, that you view things from the angle of a hacker. If somebody wants to hurt you, where will he attack? That gives you the idea of what you try to do. So we are deploying solutions that will be together. You have given us some very wonderful initiatives. What we're trying to do with the issue of the e-library is basically more of an off-station. Our off-station, because we have staff in all the 36 states of the Federation, and we're looking at issue of connectivity issues and all these issues. So your suggestion is a well-noted one, and we will see how to harmonize it with the position that we have at this moment. But one thing I can assure you is that the beauty of automation is to have an SPOC anywhere in the world. Any automation system without a single point of contact or a single point of interrogation denies you of interoperability, it denies you of data integrity, and of course, it also denies you of the opportunity of audit trail. So for me, as a person, I will not superintend over the implementation of an automation process that is not based on a harmonized structure. You can take that to the bank, and you can be rest assured of that. Then you spoke about the data privacy. Yes, in fact, we're already in understanding with the Data Protection Agency. Already, Mr. Vincent, we've met, he was in my office, we have an understanding, and we have set up a committee between the Ministry of Interior and all our agencies to be able to sit with them to come up with a data protection policy for the Ministry of Interior and all agencies. Part of the first thing we think we need to do, I have to say this on camera, is that I personally, coming from my background as an IT security expert, I see no reason why my NIN should be fully written on an international passport. Because you go to an hotel, your data page, people take your data page. You go to the bank, they take photocopy. And your NIN is your identity, is who you are. Once that number alone is enough to put anybody in trouble. So I sincerely believe that we can introduce masking of maybe the last 3-4 digits or something. So we have to, those are part of the initiatives that we've brought in on board with the Nigerian Immigration Service. We're already working on that. So the NDPD or something, they are already helping us a lot in working up a policy for the ministry and the agency. Once again, I believe all we need to do is to leverage on government agencies. We are not in competition. We are here to complement one another and to make sure that their success is our success is their success, and at the end of the day, we have to ensure that Nigeria becomes the ultimate winner. Then you spoke about a strategic IT plan. Yes, that's the first thing I did, having an IT plan. And that is why today in Nigerian Immigration Service, starting from the end of this month now, all the issues that we used to have in immigration in terms of passport application, by virtue of, for instance, it's so annoying that somebody wants to change his name. One, I do not agree. Personally, it's my own opinion. I don't believe anybody should change his date of birth. Personally, I believe for you to change your date of birth, there's something fishy. We need to go the extra mile, because your name can change maybe by marriage, conversion of religion or whatever. But your date or the day when they born you, I believe that one should be it should be sacrosanct. So that, but apart from that, somebody gets married in maybe in Oloibiri, and you are telling me he cannot change his name, he cannot change his passport data, he has to come all the way to Abuja, bring documents to Abuja just for the sake of change of name because she got married? I don't think that is ideal. So what we are doing now with regard to all these things is to make sure that even all your documents are uploaded online. Even when you go to a passport office, there is no need in this era of 2023. I don't know anywhere you will go that they will still be saying, let's snap your picture in terms of your passport photograph. So they are standard, ICAO standard, just like we do in US Embassy and Co. You upload this soft copy of this, your passport and everything. So if at all you need to go to a passport office, if you are a fresh applicant, all you just need to do there is take only your fingerprint, because we want you to be comfortable, but we must also not sacrifice our national security. We must balance both. So once that is done, and we are proposing, we will still talk to the next two stakeholders, the chairman, the chairman, and other stakeholders. We'll still consult you, because it's my own sincere opinion that the world now has even gone to the era of contactless biometric. That is what is done all over the world now. So people can sit in their room. So once you are a first applicant, a fresh applicant, which should be once in your life, because there can only be a first time, only one first time. Any other time can never be a first time. So if you already have your fingerprint in our database, if you want to renew your passport within the comfort of your home, you should be able to use the contactless to capture. Once it matches what we have in our database, then it means it's you. If it does not match, then we cannot tell you to come to the office. So it's about making life, technology is to be a catalyst, to make life easy for Nigerians. So these are the few initiatives that we have been able to put in place, and some of the questions that we have, answers we have to some of the questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chair.
The first question is about expatriate quota money being collected in Naira. I forgot to mention to Mr. Chairman that for us to be able to further curtail the menace of abuse of quota system, we introduced what we call the EEL. In fact, it should be launched within the next few weeks. The whole project has been delivered, and it's called Expatriate Employee Levy, because we understood, we got to see that what most of these expatriates do to avoid tax issues is that what they pay them here in Nigeria is basically more like an upkeep allowance. So most of them, they get paid their salaries in their home country, so they use that to avoid taxation. And so what we have introduced now is what we call the EEL. So it was approved by FEC, and the project has been fully developed. The whole system is ready to be launched by Mr. President anytime soon. So that gives you that, okay, if you want an expatriate for a year, apart from what you pay for expatriate quota, you must be able to pay, I think it's about $5,000 US, but if it is the managing director or executive, any executive is about $10,000. So that is to be able to make sure that so if you can't afford that, then look for a Nigerian. So we want to also use that to discourage these people, because the main thing now is that there is no charge. Nigeria is like more or less the cheapest country where expatriates work. They can just come here, collect our money, and go, and there's nothing and whatever. So part of what we're doing, as much as we also work on the suggestion of the chairman with regards to monitoring and evaluation, is to also be able to bring financial on them. So we are starting to do that. So that answers the issue of the business expatriate. They pay us in Naira. And of course, the expatriate, in most cases, like what I said, they get paid in their, that's what we have discovered from our interaction with them. They use it as a system to beat our own tax net and tax system. So to be able to hit them on that, so we are introducing what we call the EEL. And hopefully in the next 2-3 weeks, Mr. President will be chanced enough to come and commission the whole platform. Then we spoke about issue of border control. Yes, border control. What the first thing I did when I became Minister of Interior with regards to border control is to have an interministerial committee, so which we to create up a border governance structure for us, including all necessary agencies. So as we speak, the report is almost ready, and it even includes the border community, because one of the major problems in our border system are the communities. That's just the truth. Because we are one country that we have more contagious border communities than integral border communities. And there's no country in the world that can survive like that. Because, for instance, there are certain places in Nigeria that there are no schools. The children in those places, they go to the neighboring country to school. So the anthem they recite is maybe Niger or Chadian or Beninese anthem. They don't even know Nigerian anthem. The pledge from primary school, secondary school they recite is to the other country. Even their social life, some of them, when they write WAEC, they write in French. They cannot even speak English. So they are in Nigeria, but they are not of Nigeria. So how do you get this? How do you get the loyalty and patriotism from people like that? And just as you know, any country is as secured as the veracity and integrity of the intelligence available to that country. You can have the most equipped armed forces in the world. If the intelligence is defective, definitely you cannot win the war. We saw what happened in Afghanistan. The United States, they have the best of military, but when the locals do not give you that level of support, there's very little that you can achieve. So the committee includes all these agencies you've mentioned, including even the border community, including boundary commission. For example, this affects Ogun. Most of like Nigeria and border, and Benin rather, Nigeria and Benin Republic, we are lucky that we have friendly neighbor on that side. Because when you look at that stretch of our border, you will realize that it's not a linear border. It's a spatial border that we have. That's why you see some people, their houses, for instance, in Nigeria, their farm is in Benin Republic. So it's a major issue. And the reason is that that border was perhaps agreed to as far back as 1906 between the French and the British, not between Nigeria and Benin Republic. So there's a lot for boundary commission to still do in that regard. So part of the committee includes boundary commission, because you cannot secure a border that you don't know. You must define your border. The first thing is define your border, identify your border space, then defend it, then develop the communities around that place to be able to be your eye, to be able to be your source of intelligence, and to be able to create a shield for your nation. So we are already working in that regard. The committee is already working. Even the Surveyor General of the Federation is also involved in that particular committee, and all the agencies, all sister agencies are involved. So we are already working on that. Then the issue of the budget implementation, why will not be able, of course, because of capital releases. You said we're giving 3-something, but just as we know, government business is not private business, that when money comes, one can decide to use it the way he likes. But when they release money per quarter, and money is released late, perhaps this was maybe like 1 or 2 weeks before the preparation. It's too short a time for us to be able to expend it by virtue of procurement, because you can't even award a job if you don't have up to the mobilization amount for mobilization. It's against the Procurement Act. So you must have that. So that is the reason why we have not fully expended that. And at 70-something%, I think in my own understanding and based on the timeline of when funds were released, I think we are still on point. Then you spoke about personnel cost, already exhausted. The personnel cost released. Personnel cost is not my money. It's not the ministry's money. It's money that they pay for salary. So when we say personnel release, it means that salaries that federal government have paid. So they have paid up to that time. So when it's time for December salary, the Accountant General, they will pay. So once they pay, then the personnel release will increase. But we cannot pay salary in advance. So that is why the personnel release is what it is, and the performance is 100%, because people have been paid 100% by virtue of, as at the date of preparing of the document. Then NOA. Well, the issue is that NOA, yes, we understand orientation agency, but what we are trying to do, we must not forget the core responsibility of this ministry. The core responsibility of this ministry, beyond issue of border, is internal security. And as I said during my presentation, we realized we did our own survey, we did our research, and we understood that tribal issues, land border issues, which affects even my community, because it is not, when we say land border, we have both internal and external. We're not talking of external border now with other countries that the UN has to, by virtue of treaty. We're talking about internal border. There are a lot of issues that are religious issues. There are a lot of solutions that goes with that. But if it's a suggestion that we should work with any, of course, we are, like what I said, we are all part of one same government. An ability to work together and achieve results is what Nigeria needs. But this is key to what the ministry wants to achieve, because we must ensure that we must go with the trend globally. The trend globally now is preventive security. Nobody, the investment the United States, the investment other countries are putting into detective, into corrective solutions is lesser than preventive. Because if there are crimes, if there are things you can correct, if there are issues that you can bring people to the table, if there are issues that we can solve, it helps us to enhance our internal security. It makes sure that we are safer, it makes sure we are better. And this is going to be in collaboration with states, local government, and of course, even all interested parties. We have already written to states. They have given us the whole profile of issues that are on ground. Then we will work with the Office of the National Security Advisor, work with other security agencies to be able to create an acceptable alternative dispute resolution system that will be able to reduce the level of ethnic tension, the level of religious tension, and the level of internal issues that we have. We believe by doing that, we save our armed forces. It reduces this issue of overstretching of our armed forces. Let's be sincere with ourselves. With the population of Nigeria, I did small mathematics the other day. I think for every Nigerian, how many officers? 561 Nigerians to only one officer is what we have. No, I mean, I mean police and NSCDC, minus the armed forces, for internal security. For one NSCDC plus police, we have 561 Nigerians. That's unrealistic. So,
what's the UN standard?
Pardon?
UN.
I don't know. So for me, I sincerely think that we can reduce the exposure. That's the whole point of this. Then on the issue of then the issue of PPP arrangements that we spoke about, yes. No, we have this one. Okay, you spoke about harmonization of the PPP data. I think harmonization of the PPP data based of what we were trying to do. Yesterday I was in the news. I went to print and mint, security print and mint, because the most important thing is that IT-wise all over the world is outsourcing data. That's just the truth. But outsourcing data, I personally believe, should be to a secured government infrastructure if we are to outsource, because we're talking about government data here. So I believe it has to be. So we went yesterday to security print and mint to see their new tier 2 data center to look at the capacity, the capability, and availability for a harmonized single point of contact solution. So we were there yesterday. So that means we are working in that particular direction. But we will not be in a haste to migrate the data if I'm not sure where I'm going to migrate my data to. I want to migrate my data. That is the bitter truth. But we have to understand that the service we render, especially Nigerian Immigration Service, these are services that cannot shut down by a second. Because when Nigeria is sleeping, another country is working. As we are sleeping here, somebody is applying for passport maybe in Chicago. As they are sleeping in Chicago, somebody is applying for passport in Brazil, putting into consideration time interval. So power is a major issue. So we are looking, we have already started the whole process of entering into an understanding, but I don't want to hand it over to a private sector. Because God forbid, if AMCON closes the gate tomorrow to the private sector, it means the data of all Nigerians, AMCON has taken over. So these are key issues that we're looking at, but we have to take our time to make sure we get a sustainable solution that we will be able to defend. Then NINOA, I've already spoken about that. Then chairman's first question, the foreign travels, 20 million. It's based on envelope. That's the envelope they gave us for it, so it's not based on our, of course, the Ministry of Interior with the level of programs that we go for migration, UN programs, UNODC programs, and all international communities. So it's, we know it's really, it's grossly inadequate, but that's the envelope that we were given as a ministry. So it was beyond our control. There's no way we would have proposed 20 million in that case. Then on the marriage registry, I want my, so she just told me now that there's, that what?
It's constitutional.
Please, Mr. Chairman, with your express permission, may I allow my director legal to address that issue, please? Thank you.
To account. I'm anxious to have a photograph with you with your new rank.
Thank you so much.
But, Honorable Minister, there are just few concerns I have. I wasn't clear. First, I noticed with joy, I don't know how you want to do it, I saw foreign travels, 20 million. I think I saw something like that. And I was like, one ticket and 5 days extra code, we would have consumed that. from my experience, unless you are good to do stowaway, you know, but it shows that your allocations are not frivolous. They are not one of those wasteful, invisible spending. Maybe I didn't get the numbers right, but I saw 20 million somewhere, different from local travel, which is about the same 20 million. But this marriage registry, my understanding is that there is now a Supreme Court judgment which says that the federal government has no business with marriage registry. That should be the business of the states or local government. Do you still have the monopoly of registering marriages?
Thank you, my able chair.
What is the legal status now?
No, that's what she's putting something down for me. You know, I'm
Also the federal government. The local governments took us to court.
Judgment of the Constitution.
I may not be able to quote verbatim now.
If you can't quote it, it's not valid.
It is valid, sir, because I did not write the
Excuse
Constitution.
me, we don't run the Senate based on verbal statements. I have to report to, we are a subcommittee. We have to report, you must report to the House of Reps. I have to report to the Senate. I will not say one legal officer in the ministry says, Constitution say you have to report.
Court of Appeal. Currently, we have been served, but we do not have the date by the local government again to the Court of Appeal, to the Supreme Court. So I would not now say that Supreme Court has given a judgment. Supreme Court has not given a judgment on this. Thank you, sir.
So the Court of Appeal judge
Of the Court of Appeal to the Honorable to the chambers here, to this committee. Thank you very much, sir.
the minister's friend has a problem
Sir, we request for time to make our
let
presentation.
me say
this.
this. I ask a follow-up question. Because you and I can read the Constitution, even as you are a learned person, but you are not a judge. And even if you were to be a judge, you are not, to my knowledge, a member of the Supreme Court. So it is the Supreme Court interpretation of the law that is binding, not layman interpretation. My understanding, which I invited your comment, is that this matter has been taken to court, and if my recollection is correct, I think it was Lagos State government that led this effort to ensure that the concept of federal government, of being in a federation, is practicalized. So what was the judgment of the Supreme Court or of any higher court on this matter? Because I know for a fact that it has been in court.
Thank you very much, sir. The matter was at the lower court, at the